There were innumerable civilizations in the vast galaxy, all vying for a position among the stars. These included creatures that sought knowledge, civilizations that flourished in harmony, and empires that constructed wonders, but when a single force rose to power, all of that was put in jeopardy. This was no typical foe. They were deliberate, brutal, driven by an insatiable desire for domination. His whispers began in the most remote corners of space, quiet at first. Then undeniable, the first signs of the coming horror were subtle, nearly invisible. Commerce. Lines disappeared, entire colonies fell silent. Explorers and communication scouts who entered the regions never returned. It became clear, this was no natural disaster. This was an invasion, a cosmic anomaly unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. The attackers didn't strike in haste. Their technology was far beyond anything known. They moved with methodical precision, dismantling the fortifications of every known civilization. They left behind only ruin. They had no interest in treaties, no desire for alliances. Their objective was singular, conquest. Worlds were stripped of resources, populations enslaved or exterminated, and every species, no matter how powerful, came to fear this relentless force. They weren't just conquering. They were crushing hope. They erased identity, obliterated culture, and suppressed resistance before it could even begin. They shattered not only bodies, but spirits. The first to fall was the mighty Line Confederacy. Then the Federation of Aldar, renowned for unity and technological brilliance. They too burned. Their fleets scattered, their leaders vanished. One by one, civilizations collapsed. Unable to withstand the overwhelming force, some tried to hide. Others fled, burying their cities deep underground or on shadowed, unexplored planets. But the Maelstrom, as they came to be known, always found them. The galaxy grew silent, darker, colder. In their arrogance, they missed one insignificant planet. Earth. Humanity had never been considered a major power. They lacked the advanced fleets, the centuries of interstellar diplomacy, the unified history. The Maelstrom barely noticed them, but Earth had noticed them, though never contacted. Humans had always feared this possibility. For decades, they prepared in secret, building technologies that, while primitive compared to the Maelstroms, were creative, adaptive, resilient. Humanity had always thrived under pressure. They'd survived extinctions, wars, plagues, and civil collapse. They didn't panic. They planned. They didn't wait for the invasion. They acted. Where other civilizations formed sprawling alliances or built massive fleets, humanity gambled everything on a single warship, one ship, one chance, one message, that humanity would not go quietly. It was their greatest achievement, a vessel built in silence, forged in desperation and designed with one goal, to defy the impossible. Earth's brightest minds came together. Engineers, scientists, strategists, united in purpose. Every inch of the ship was optimized, every weapon tested, every system hardened. It wasn't just a ship, it was a statement. Humanity would not kneel. And while critics called the plan reckless, placing all hope in a single vessel, Earth's leaders knew that spread out effort meant diluted strength. This ship would not fight like others. It would think like no other. Designed to outsmart, not outgun, advanced AI handled real-time decisions. But a hand-picked human crew brought unpredictability and creativity. Together, they would face what no one else had dared. This mission wasn't just about survival. It was about resistance. It was about lighting a spark in the galaxy's darkest hour. And when the time came, the ship launched. Not with ceremony, but with silence. The world watched, breathless. As their last hope disappeared into the stars, the Maelstrom had no idea. They didn't see Earth as a threat. They didn't even consider that lone ship worth a second glance. Their arrogance would be their greatest mistake. The warship advanced with surgical precision, striking the Maelstrom at their edges, at blind spots no one else had dared to explore. Their first response was dismissive. They sent a small fleet. It was obliterated, not with brute force, but with tactics. The warship didn't overpower. It outwitted. Its strikes targeted key systems, rupturing command structures and forcing the Maelstrom to retreat. For the first time in memory, that victory shattered the illusion. For ages, the Maelstrom's strength had been in their reputation, unbeatable, unstoppable, but now, the galaxy saw the truth. They could be hurt. They could be defeated. The warship pressed forward, targeting communications, supply chains, and command hubs. It wasn't conquest. It wasn't revenge. It was survival. Each success inspired hope. Civilizations that had once surrendered began to resist. The Maelstrom, overstretched, overwhelmed, and off balance, began to crack. This single ship, this human spark, became a wildfire across the stars. The crew worked tirelessly. Every move mattered. Every breath was taken with the knowledge that failure meant extinction. And the Maelstrom? They still didn't understand. They still believed Earth was just another speck of dust. They didn't realize they were staring at the turning point of galactic history. By the time they did, it was too late. The galaxy was rising. The tide had finally turned. The warship's strength under pressure lay not only in its technology, but in its ability to adapt to every challenge the Maelstrom presented. Each new encounter revealed fresh data, strategies, vulnerabilities, and humanity learned. It adapted. It evolved. What the Maelstrom mistook as inexperience became one of humanity's greatest weapons, ingenuity. Unlike the Maelstrom's rigid, brute force tactics, the warship thrived on unpredictability. And in the face of overwhelming odds that gave it an advantage no empire could counter, the Maelstrom had only ever fought one way. For so long, their domination had bred complacency, their plans were inflexible, their leaders unprepared for an enemy that refused to play by their rules. The warship turned every terrain into a trap, every circumstance into a weapon. It fought with methods that seemed irrational until they worked. And with each victory, it gathered momentum. The Maelstrom's leadership, unused to defeat, began to fracture. Doubt spread. Paranoia set in. Commanders turned on each other. The warship wasn't just dismantling fleets. It was dismantling confidence. It became a symbol, not only of resistance, but of hope. A solitary light in a darkened galaxy. And then something miraculous happened. As joined civilizations that had hidden or surrendered now stepped forward. They offered intel, resources, even warriors. The Maelstrom's nightmare had just begun. What started as a mission of one ship was now a movement. The Maelstrom tried to respond. They unleashed newer weapons, bigger fleets, but their own empire worked against them, sprawling, scattered, and sluggish. The warship's speed, its unpredictability, always stayed one step ahead. The undisputed rulers of the galaxy were now on the defensive. The impossible had happened. The Maelstrom was retreating. The warship had forced them to face the consequences of their arrogance. It proved that strength without adaptability was weakness. The Maelstrom had built an empire of fear and destruction, but they had never prepared for an enemy like this, humanity's lone warship had flipped the very rules of war. It wasn't just ships and weapons. It was philosophy versus domination, ingenuity versus tyranny. And with each setback, the Maelstrom cracked further. Their aura of invincibility faded. Those who had once lived under their boot began to rise. What started as small uprisings became coordinated revolts. The rebellion spread like wildfire. The warship pressed its advantage. It struck supply lines, destroyed communication hubs, cut the Maelstrom's power at the roots. Without infrastructure, their fleets began to collapse. Without unity, their command shattered. In fighting replaced dominance, they turned on each other. The warship became more than metal and fire. It became a beacon, a reminder that fear could be defeated, that even the smallest spark could ignite a revolution. Coalitions formed. Former rivals stood side by side, all for one goal, the end of the Maelstrom. In a final act of desperation, the Maelstrom fortified their core systems. They poured their last strength into a trap, hoping to lure the warship into one decisive, crushing defeat, but humanity had learned and refused to play by their rules. Instead, the warship struck elsewhere, hard, fast, surgical. The Maelstrom, already divided and desperate, failed to adapt. Their final mistake. Then came the blow that changed everything. The warship targeted the Maelstrom's central command structure. A devastating, precise strike, and with that, the last thread of their unity unraveled. Leaderless, scattered, vulnerable, the once mighty Maelstrom Empire collapsed. What remained were fragments, shards of a once terrifying force, and in their place, a galaxy. Beginning to heal, the warship's campaign had sparked more than victory. It sparked transformation. Once isolated civilizations now collaborated. They pooled knowledge, shared resources, and formed new alliances. Earth, once overlooked, now stood at the heart of galactic leadership. It was not a position humanity had sought, but one it had earned through fire, sacrifice, and courage. But with leadership came responsibility. The warship had ensured survival. Now humanity had to guide rebuilding. Together they helped form a new council, a unified body of species determined to prevent another maelstrom from ever rising again. Peace would not come easily. The scars of tyranny ran deep, but the galaxy had changed. Where once fear ruled, now stood hope. And as the warship, scarred and silent, returned to Earth, it was no longer just a vessel. It was a monument, a testament to defiance, a symbol of unity. A story that would echo across generations. The Maelstrom's fall was more than the end of an empire. It was a beginning, the beginning of a galaxy reborn.